welcome to another Guardians of Wiltshire video. I'm your host Dewi, and this week on Send Forth All Legions, the Paths of the Druadan. Having decided to answer Gondor's call for aid, Theoden leads as many men as he can muster as they ride to the White City to face the might of Mordor head-on. Yet the road to Minas Tirith is long, and far ahead of them a host of Orcs block the passage into Gondor, making it impossible to reach the city in time to stop it from falling into darkness. Making camp upon the edge of the Druadan forest, Theoden ponders how to reach their allies in time. It is here that the Rohirrim are approached by the wild men of the forest, whose leader offers to guide the Stonehouse folk through the Druadan forest unimpeded by the roots and trees that would normally make it impossible for horses to traverse the forest's path without any sort of hassle. Gladly accepting the aid of the Woses, Theoden and his people are led through the forest by Gan, their leader, and along their journey Theoden learns of the deep hatred that the Woses hold for all orc kind who have hunted their people for generations, and Theoden pledges to help the Woses to rid their forest of any orcs they may come across. The Woses' knowledge of the forest path and usually difficult terrain is an invaluable asset to the Rohirrim, allowing them to unleash their full fury of their cavalry charge upon their foes, using paths that only the Woses now remember. The Rohirrim are able to chase down and fell the orc folk, even as they try to escape through the Druadan forest, for the alliance of the Rohan and the Woses has proven to be one that can bring the fight to any that oppose them. We'll dive straight in with the army composition. So, you have Theoden, King of Rohan, on armoured horse. He can take a heavy armour and a shield. Eomer, Marshal of the Riddermark with armoured horse. He can take a shield or throwing spears. Dernhelm, who can take throwing spears. Deerwine, Chief of the King's Knights with horse. Elfhelm, Captain of Rohan with horse. Gamling, Captain of Rohan with horse, and he can take the Royal Standard of Rohan. Gan, Captain of Rohan with horse. He can take a bow, heavy armour, shield and throwing spears. And onto the warriors. You have the Rider of Rohan, who can take a warhorn, a banner and throwing spears. Rohan Royal Guard with horse, who can take a banner and throwing spears. A Rohan Outrider with horse. And a Woses warrior. So, all the heroes that went to the Pelennor in Rise of Theoden, with the addition of Garn, Woses and the Rohan Outriders, as you would have heard, all the Rohan forces have to be on horse. This is just to kind of simulate them going to the Pelennor and to the aid of Gondor. So all in all, quite a cool collection of heroes. Excuse me. The additional rules. A pass of the Druadan force must always include Theoden, King of Rohan, who is always the army's leader. Makes sense. He's the only hero of legend. A pass of the Druadan force must always include Gan and a full warband of Woses. So this instantly puts you at a little bit of a disadvantage in this list, in theory. It's 200 points of Garn and 15 Woses, and that is all. So the second part of the additional rule is Garn is the only hero that can include Woses warriors in his warband. Makes sense, they don't follow anyone else. And then Riders of Rohan within this Legendary Legion do not count towards your force's bow limit. Again, really useful, because they automatically come equipped with all the war gear. It makes sense. So on to the special rules. So the first one, waypoints. At the start of the game, before either side has deployed, this Legendary Legion's controlling player may place 3 25mm waypoint markers anywhere on the board. Whilst within 6 inches of a friendly waypoint marker, friendly Rohan models do not suffer any penalties for moving or charging through difficult terrain. This is incredible. Suddenly your cavalry are charging through rocky terrain, through ruins if you're playing them as difficult, through woods, you can charge inwards, you suddenly are moving full through woods rather than a quarter, it's frankly phenomenal. Kill Orc folk. Friendly models may reroll 1s to wound when making strikes against any Orc, Goblin or Uruk-hai model. So again, okay, a little bit situational, you're probably in good v evil. This Legion would probably be a bit better, especially because the majority of forces are Orcs, Goblins or Uruk-hai. Team this up with the Woes' Hatred, so suddenly your Woes are getting +1 to wound from Hatred and they're rerolling their 1s. It suddenly becomes really, really powerful. And the last special rule, know all paths. If, during the move phase, models from both sides have declared a heroic move and a roll-off is required to see which side's heroic move happens first, this force will gain a bonus to that roll. If they would normally win the roll-off on a 4+, they will instead win the roll-off on the 3+. If they would normally win the roll-off on a 1, 2 or 3, they will instead win the roll-off on a 1, 2, 3 or 4. This is huge. So combine that with the waypoints. So let's just take that in isolation first. Having a cavalry force, or half a cavalry force, winning roll-offs on an extra number on the dice roll is huge. You're suddenly going from 50% win ratio, like roll-off win ratio, to a 66% win ratio. And that is massive. It allows you to do so much. And then team it with the waypoints, you could suddenly ambush a force from behind a block of trees and out of nowhere just massacre as much as possible. So, like, very, very skilled to play it, I would have thought, but definitely really, really interesting. So the designer's notes. This Legendary Legion represents the Rohirrim's fleeting alliance with the wild men of the Druadan Forest as they make their way to the Pelennor. In the books, it's Theoden and Gondor that strike up the alliance, the Woes is offering to lead the Rohirrim through the forest so they can avoid the patrolling Orcs, in exchange for them ensuring that the Woes are left alone and to their own devices. The Woes know all the paths of the forest that were once used by men, but long have since been forgotten, by all except the Woes. To represent this in game, the Woes may place a series of waypoint markers on the board representing the areas they know well. Whilst within 6 inches of one of these waypoint markers, the Rohirrim are able to move and even charge through forest and other difficult terrain with no penalty, making it easy to traverse the board without being bogged down by terrain. So yeah, really, really strong. Most boards that I've played on have had trees or some ruins. There's not that masses of rocks that I've seen around. However, this is really cool. I think it's really strong. Like I say, I haven't seen many people play it, if any, but it's definitely a list that has the theory to do well. So we'll come to the Hierarchy of Heroes. Moving on to the Hierarchy of Heroes. It's a little similar to the Rise of Theoden because you've got a lot of the same heroes. However, you do have to include Garn, which is where it gets slightly interesting. So we'll go through at 450, 600, 750 points as usual. And we'll jump straight into 450 points. So at 450 points, you have to take Theoden and Garn. So they're your two main ones, similar to Aragorn and the King of the Dead in The Return of the King. So next I would take Dernhelm. And then if you don't want to bog out with warriors, Elfhelm. 450 points. I think Dernhelm over Gamling because she's less points, and she's also got strike in that fight 5 straight away, and technically 3 might with some good attack stats. So that's just how I would put together a 450 point force. If you want to go Garn and all heroes, you can get Theoden, Dernhelm and Elfhelm in there. So moving on to 600 points. Again, you've got Garn and Theoden. Again, I would take Durnhelm. I just think, like I said, really, really strong. And then you can break it down into either just Aemir, or you can take Gamling. And then if you're going all hero, you can put in Elfhelm or Deerwine. It's entirely up to you. Again, it depends if you want to go Woses and all heroes. Note you don't get the +1 strength bonus in this legion, and you have to pay for your heroic combats, obviously, with might. But I think if you're going down the multiple hero route, Gamling's probably a good option. Then on to 750 points. I think obviously it's Garn and Theoden again. Then I think you take Gamling because you're going to include a lot of Rohan heroes. Then Durnhelm, and then Deerwine for that extra heroic strike. I think it's just a really good option. And then it's a choice between Elfhelm and Aemir, and then below that is a Rohan captain. And below Elfhelm is a Rohan captain, sorry. So this is again whether you want to go with the hero heavy or you want to go with the kind of the more rounded cavalry force with some Rise of Rohan and some Royal Guard. It's entirely up to you. But that's kind of my thoughts behind it. So we'll come back with the army lists in the next segment. Army lists. Again, like Hierarchy of Heroes, we'll go through 450, 600, 750 points. I'm going to include Garn and all his Woses first, even though they're not the army leader, just because they're in every force and it's easy to get them out of the way with. So 450 points, you've got Garnbury Garn and 15 Woes Warriors. Warband 2, I've got Theoden with an armoured horse, heavy armour and shield, giving him all the tools, and then a Royal Guard with horse and throwing spear. And Warband 3 is Durnhelm with a Rider of Rohan and a throwing spear. So this has 22 models, 6 cavalry with the no terrain penalties. It's got 2 bows, 16 blowpipes and 2 throwing spears. You've got 9 might, which is really, really good for 450 points. You've got 2 heroic strike, 2 heroic marches, a strong secondary hero in Durnhelm, like I specified earlier. Woses that have hatred, stalk unseen, which we haven't mentioned, which is they can hide behind terrain, and it acts like so your opponent can't see you unless they're within 6, I think. and they've got kill orc folk from this Legendary Legion. And then you've got warriors who become fight 4 and fight 5 on the charge because they're near Theoden. So I think this is a relatively strong force. You're kind of wanting to find the right time to dive in with your cavalry. Theoden and Durnhelm would probably call heroic combats and try and kill as many as possible, as quickly as possible. Note this force does lack a banner. I didn't think it was really feasible unless you just go Theoden with a warband. So moving on to 600 points, this is where you can get a few more guys in. So at 600 points, again you have Garn and 15 Woses. Warband 2, I've got Theoden with armoured horse, heavy armour and a shield. 1 Royal Guard with horse and throwing spear. 1 Rider of Rohan. 1 Rider of Rohan with throwing spear. Warband 3 is Gamling with horse and the Royal Standard of Rohan. 1 Royal Guard with horse and throwing spear. And 1 Rider of Rohan with a throwing spear. And then Warband 4 again is Durnhelm. One Rider of Rohan and 1 Rider of Rohan with a throwing spear. So this has 27 models, 8 cavalry I think it is. No, I may lie, a bit more. 10 cavalry with no terrain penalties. The Royal Standard of Rohan, 3 bows, 16. Oh no, I lie. 5 bows, 16 blowpipes. And 5 throwing spears. 12 might with the Royal Standard of Rohan regeneration. You've got 2 heroic strikes, 3 heroic marches, your strong secondary killing hero in Durnhelm again. Your Woses again have hatred, stalk unseen, kill all orc folk, and you've got more warriors who can become fight 4 and fight 5 on the charge. So this is more of your kind of slight hammer and anvil Your anvil's not that strong because it's just Woses, but with their woodland creature and terrain ability, the option for them to skirt around and stay out of trouble, and let your Rohans really pack a punch. And when you've got Theoden and Dernhelm, who can call combats and strikes with Gamling around, and Gamling providing just a general banner effect, I think this could work really well. And then building on that at 750 points, again you have Garn, Brogan and 15 Woes Warriors. Theoden, Armoured Horse, Heavy Armour and Shield, 1 Royal Guard with Horse and Throwing Spear, 2 Riders of Rohan. Gamling with Horse, Royal Standard of Rohan, 1 Royal Guard with Horse and Throwing Spear, 2 Riders of Rohan. Dernhelm with 3 Riders of Rohan, and Dear Wine with a Horse, 1 Royal Guard with a Horse and 2 Riders of Rohan. So this has 33 models now at 750 points, which is good. 16 Cavalry with no terrain penalties. The Royal Standard of Rohan, you've got 9 bows, 16 blowpipes and 2 throwing spears. You've got 15 Might now with the Royal Standard of Rohan. You've got 3 Heroic Strikes, 4 Heroic Marches, 3 Heroic Combat from Dear Wine, obviously within 12 of Theoden. Strong secondary heroes, being Dernhelm and Dear Wine. Your Woses have Hatred, Stalk Unseen, Kill Orc Folk, and your Warriors who become Fight 4 or Fight 5 on the charge. So I think this is pretty strong. It's not like Death, where Dear Wine's 3 heroic combats don't really come into it. Having the ability to 3 heroic combat with Dear Wine is amazing, because then the next turn you could call the heroic move with him, or Gamling. I think your Woses will get a little bit forgotten in this list by your opponent. Having the option just to kind of run away, and the scary Rohan heroes charging around is really, really handy. So all in all, I think this list is really, really interesting. I think there's plenty of options, and I think the winning a roll-off on a 3+ rather than a 4+ is massive. And like I say, this is filmed in June, so 2020. So this is obviously still within lockdown from COVID. So there's not been many tournaments recently, but this is one that I would like to see on the table, and I would really wonder how well it could be. Obviously you can theory hammer things till the cows come home, but seeing it on the table would definitely be really, really good. So if you've liked this video, please comment, like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.